Today, we're going to explore the profound changes that occur in your life as you come closer to the shift. It's a journey of self-discovery, of rewiring your brain, and ultimately embracing the unknown. Let me share a personal insight with you. There was a time in my life when I couldn't get up in the morning. I felt stuck, predictable, and my body was resigning to the familiar. Maybe you felt the same way, like each day is just another mundane repetition. But remember, there's a shift waiting to happen. Think back to when you were a kid, excited about a field trip. You were up early, dressed, and ready to go before your parents even stirred. Why? Because you knew something unexpected was going to happen. That's how we should live our lives, waking up with the understanding to expect the unexpected. Life should be an adventure, filled with unusual and extraordinary moments. It's in those beginning moments, as the shift begins to happen, that we prove to ourselves just how powerful we truly are. So here's a practical tip for you. Take time in the morning, in the evening, and throughout the day to check in with yourself. Are you still in that energy of expecting the unexpected? If not, excuse yourself for a moment, raise your energy, and step back into your life. Repeat this process, and you'll notice a significant shift in your perspective. As you consistently check in with yourself, you'll find that you become less frustrated, less impatient, and less judgmental. You'll become someone else, a version of yourself that embraces the unknown and welcomes change. Now let's talk about meditation. When you finish a meditation, if you get up feeling the same way as when you sat down, nothing significant happened. Real transformation occurs when you get up with an elevated sense of self, a clear vision of your future, and a different energy. Why is this important? Because your thoughts are electric and your feelings are magnetic. The way you think and feel broadcasts into the field, shaping your experimental destiny. When you go within during meditation, disconnecting from the outer world, you make your inner world more real than your external reality. Now, when you open your eyes and present yourself to the world, the challenge is not to react emotionally to the same conditions in your life. Reacting emotionally brings you back to your past. Instead, realign, change your energy, and stay connected to the energy of the unknown. Speaking of energy, let me share a personal routine with you. I love getting up early in the morning, around 4:30 a.m. That's my time. The brain waves and chemistry during early mornings make the connection between the conscious and subconscious mind more open. It's a time for self-investment, a time when I'm not thinking but relaxing into the moment. In the evening, reflect on your day. Ask yourself, how did I do? Identify moments where you fell from grace, reacted emotionally, or made choices that could have been better. Then visualize how you would do things differently in similar situations. This act of rehearsing installs new circuits in your brain, promoting neuroplasticity. When you fall from that elevated state, take a moment to realign. Tune in again, change your energy, and step back into the flow of life. Consistent realignment leads to less frustration, impatience, and judgment, making you someone new, a version of yourself that embraces change effortlessly. Investing in yourself is crucial. That early morning time is sacred for me because it's a form of self-investment. When you invest in yourself, you invest in your future. The brain's receptivity during those early hours allows for a more effortless connection between the conscious and subconscious mind. Now, let's delve into the power of intention. The frontal lobe, the creative center of your brain, activates when you ask open-ended questions. This creative center then looks over the entire brain's landscape, pulling together different networks of neurons to create a new vision, an intention. But here's the secret sauce. Combine your intention with emotion. Your body is your unconscious mind, and it doesn't distinguish between an actual experience and an emotion fabricated by thought alone. This is what we call mental rehearsal. Let's delve into something truly extraordinary, the transformation that goes beyond material possessions. It's not just about fancy cars or big houses, it's about those moments that touch the very core of your being. Picture those times when something happens and you're left in awe with your breath taken away. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast ocean, feeling the waves crash against the shore. Or perhaps it's the quiet moment when you gaze at a starry night sky, feeling the immensity of the universe. These are the mystical moments, the transcendental experiences that go beyond the tangible material world. Life is filled with these magical occurrences, moments that leave you speechless, moments that resonate deep within your soul. It's not about what you have, but what you feel and experience. These moments are like whispers from the universe, reminding you of the beauty and wonder that exists beyond the physical realm. Now, let's talk about feedback from the environment. Imagine your life as a dance with the universe, a constant exchange of energy. When you experience these mystical moments, you're sending out a powerful signal, an energy that elevates you to a higher plane. And guess what? The universe responds. Think of the universe as a vast field, and you're like a tuning fork, sending out a unique vibration. As you experience these transcendental moments, the field responds by opening doors for you. It's like the universe saying, I see you, I feel you, and here's something special just for you. Now let's talk about something truly powerful, your unlimited potential. Imagine you can be like the divine creator, making things happen, creating without limits. It's not about wishing for unlimited things. It's about feeling unlimited from within. When you decide to embrace this feeling of limitlessness, something amazing starts to unfold. Take a moment to think about it. Become magnificent in your thoughts and feelings. Believe that you can achieve anything, and you'll find that those possibilities become more available to you. It's like opening a door to a world filled with synchronicities, serendipities, and wonderful coincidences. What does it mean to feel unlimited? It's about understanding that your potential goes beyond what you can currently see or imagine. It's a belief that you are capable of more than you might think. When you decide to feel unlimited, you tap into a reservoir of creativity and opportunities that you might not have noticed before. This feeling of limitlessness is where the magic happens. Synchronicities are those moments when things seem to align perfectly, as if the universe is responding to your elevated energy. Serendipities are those delightful surprises that come out of nowhere, bringing joy and fulfillment. Wonderful coincidences are the unexpected twists that make life truly extraordinary. Now let's shift our focus to the journey of self-knowing. It's not just about reaching a destination, it's about the adventure of understanding yourself. Imagine life as a road trip where every turn, every experience contributes to your self-discovery. To embark on this journey, unify the principles we've discussed, understand them, let them sink in and make sense to you. Review them regularly, like checking a map to ensure you're on the right path. But most importantly, experience them. Life is the best teacher, and every experience is a lesson that adds to your wisdom. Think of each experience as a puzzle piece that contributes to the bigger picture of who you are. Without these experiences, you wouldn't dream in the unique ways you do. Each new encounter, every challenge, and every triumph shapes your understanding of yourself. So embrace the unknown, expect the unexpected, and watch as unfamiliar things start happening. Keep investing in yourself, live in the future with intention and emotion, and allow the field to open doors for you. Remember, the journey is about becoming someone new, a version of yourself that continuously embraces change and lives in awe of life. But the quantum model of reality, when you are truly in the present moment, when a person begins to open their heart and they can begin to sustain an elevated emotion, they begin to broaden the magnetic field around their body to 9 meters wide. Now, they are more energy than matter, they are more wave than particle, and they can exert better effects on reality. So then think of when you open your heart, this is science. Like dropping a pebble in water, you produce a ripple. If you drop a bigger stone, you produce a bigger ripple. If you are able to sustain that state, you keep dropping the same rock over and over again, and you broadcast a signature into the field. The emotion is the magnetic charge. Your intention, your thought, is the information that is carried on that wave. And when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you begin to produce an effect on matter. You see, the thoughts that you think are the electrical charge in the quantum field. The feelings that you emote are the magnetic charge in the quantum field. And how you think and how you feel broadcasts an electromagnetic signature that influences every single atom in your life. The thought sends the signal out, and the feeling draws the event back. So if you are walking around your life feeling sorry for yourself and feeling like a victim, you are broadcasting that signature into the field, and you will create more experiences to suffer. Because we are not punished for our sins, we are punished by our sins. And sin is an attitude, and sin is how you think and how you feel. So then when you cause people to give up their guilt and their shame and their unworthiness, and teach them how to open their heart and create coherent waves in their brain and in their heart, they are going to produce the miraculous. It takes training, and it takes practice. And it takes learning new information and deprogramming ourselves into believing that we are limited. But if you are living by the hormones of stress and you have no energy, no field, then you can't produce an effect on matter. So then life is about the management of energy. And where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And if your attention is on the knowns and the predictable future, or your attention is on the familiar emotions of the past, you are siphoning energy out of the present moment, and you have no energy to create with. And when you are able to do this and practice it really well, you will begin to do what is innately your birthright, and that is to create an unknown or wonderful experience in your life. So it just takes practice in order to do it. What we noticed in our research, to finish that other thought, is that there comes a moment when you are in that coherent level of alpha, and all of a sudden you slip into theta. And all of a sudden, when theta turns on, all of a sudden you start seeing this amazing change take place. And the body becomes so relaxed, and the energy centers, the sympathetic nervous system, switches on. But instead of switching on like you are being chased by a tiger, or switching on like having an orgasm or ejaculating, or switching on for whatever reason, it is switching on in balance with the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system settles the body down, but now the sympathetic nervous system turns on, and here comes that energy, and whoosh, it travels right up the central nervous system. And it hits the brainstem, switches on what is called the thalamic gate, the reticular activating system. All that energy now hits the train station, the docking station where all the neurons go, and boom, it hits the neocortex. And now you are producing gamma brainwave patterns, and gamma brainwaves are superconscious brainwave patterns. In other words, the inner world is the real world. The experience is so profound energetically that you never forget the moment. That is when you rewrite the program. That lady we showed having ecstasy and taking, not taking, in a state of ecstasy in their meditation, she was in high gamma. We were watching her, I was watching her go. We were watching her going alpha, alpha, theta, theta, theta. We looked at each other and we were like, oh no, Jeffrey and I, and all of a sudden, boom, here it comes, gamma, off the page. So then the moment that happens, that's energy. And the sympathetic nervous system now is in complete balance with the parasympathetic nervous system. The thalamic gate is open. The subconscious is out of the way. It's released, and the energy is now traveling to the thinking brain, and the person's becoming super aware. You just took the dimmer switch and went from 20 watts to 50 watts, which is normal, to 100 watts. And we saw that in all the redness in the brain. Her brain was full of energy, and she was in a state of catharsis. She could control that, but why would she want to? Now she's having an orgasm in her head. Her brain is having the orgasm, and it's not chemical, it's electromagnetic. Now here's what happens. The moment that happens, melatonin has to change. Now it starts turning into all of these amazing neurotransmitters. Melatonin is transmuted in the alchemical factory of the pineal gland, and it makes a chemical that is one of the strongest antioxidants known to man. In other words, just a little tweak on a melatonin molecule, and now you have an anti-aging, anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, antimicrobial, anti-neurodegenerative disease chemical that's floating through your bloodstream. That's the first thing. It's like HGH or something. What is it? No, it's an antioxidant. It's all those things. Oh wow, you just take a methyl group and twist it and it turns up. Then if you take melatonin and you change it again, it creates a phospholuminescent chemical, the same chemical found in the electric eel. Now what is that? The neurons are just filled with energy and there's a glow. The neurons now are heightened and they're storing energy, and that's what gives those colors and patterns during the experience. If you switch that molecule again, it turns into the chemical that you find in mammals that are hibernating. In other words, no sex drive, no appetite, the body's in stasis. You're no longer having any drives. What a time to dream. What a time to create a future, when the body is no longer the mind. Take that chemical and tweak it again, and it's the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man. Now you're talking about the God molecule, you're talking about the inner world as the real world, and now you are walking into a dimension. This is where you go from space-time into time-space. That's the vision quest, or the lucid experience, or whatever mystical moment that has been talked about for antiquity. It takes a little bit to get people to this point, but when the neurotransmitters change, the chemicals are a downward causation of a shift in consciousness. When that happens, holy hell, because the person will never be the same. I've had experiences, I understand them. You can't go back to business as usual after a few of those. I think my interest is to demystify this, right? Let's demystify it. You teach people information, you teach them how to do it, and then it creates transformation, right? If we can measure transformation, that's more information to teach transformation better, and we can close the gap. So in one of our advanced workshops, we actually did extensive meditation. One of the things I've realized in my own personal experience is that you have to go past the point where you want to lay down in your meditation. There comes a point when you want to lay down, or you want to give up or stop. So thought being the electrical charge in the quantum field, feelings being the magnetic charge, how you think and how you feel broadcasts a field. So now not just any type of field is going to do that, it's got to be coherent. So we practice creating brain coherence. We actually measure it. We practice creating heart coherence. Why? Because once energy moves right up in here, and you can change resentment or frustration or impatience to joy, to freedom, to gratitude, and we're measuring to see if you're doing it. So now when the heart starts regulating, it starts beating like a drum, and it starts to produce a measurable magnetic field. It's up to 3 meters wide. Now that energy is a frequency, and that frequency can carry information, and that information is your thought, is your intent. In other words, the elevated emotional gratitude can carry the thought of your health. The emotion of suffering cannot carry the thought of your health. It carries a different set of thoughts, so you can think positively all you want, and if you're feeling miserable, your mind and body are in opposition. So we teach people how to put these two coherent signatures together. The thought sending the signal out, the feeling drawing the event back, but the more coherent, the more organized the signal, the more connection you have to the field. So coherence is a synchronization. As an example, when people are under the gun of the fight or flight nervous system, they're living by the hormones of stress. The arousal of those chemicals drives the brain into a faster brain frequency called high beta brain waves. In high beta, the arousal, you're in survival. What you're trying to do now is control and predict everything in your life. And so you start thinking about your boss, your coworker, your boyfriend, you start thinking about the groceries, start thinking about where you have to go, all the things you have to do, your finances, and every one of those things, elements, people, places, has a neurological network in your brain. The latest research in neuroplasticity tells us we're not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives. The latest research in epigenetics says we're not doomed by our genes, that in fact we're marvels of adaptability and change. So as a person started to contemplate and think about who do I want to be when I open my eyes, what would it be like to be happy? What would it be like to live a new life? The frontal lobe is looking out into the landscape of the entire brain because it has connections to the entire neocortex, and it's got to resolve the problem. So it starts calling up different networks of neurons that are relevant to the question based on the knowledge the person learns or the experiences that they had in it. Begins to seamlessly piece together this new understanding, and that's called intention. And so if you're reading a book about how to become more happy, or if you're reading a book on how to be a leader in your life, or you're studying the process, every time you learn something new, you add new connections to your brains and raw materials for you to imagine even more. The act of mentally rehearsing begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like it's already happened. Now, the brain is typically a record of the past, but the moment we install the neurological hardware, it becomes a map to the future. And you keep doing that, the hardware becomes a software program, which means you start thinking like a genius. You start acting like a happy person because there's no mystery there because you installed the circuits. And then these people didn't wait for their wealth or their health to feel gratitude and to feel empowered or to feel love, a love for life. They began to feel those emotions ahead of the experience, and their body is, the unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the experience and their life that creates the emotion and their emotion that they're creating by thought alone. The body's believing it's living in the future in the present moment, and the stronger the emotion that they felt, the more they're going to pay attention to the thoughts they're creating. And now all of a sudden they're changing their biology from living in the past-present reality to living in the future-present reality. And I was so intrigued by this process that I went back to school to study neuroscience because it was the answer in the internal process of rehearsing and imagining. They had long moments where they lost track of time and space, where when they opened their eyes, they thought it was maybe 15, 20 minutes later, and it was an hour and 15 minutes later. When we get into the present moment, there's a moment where you lose track of yourself. You forget about yourself, and only in the present moment do you have access, according to the quantum model of reality, to other possibilities. Just close your eyes and pay attention to compassion. The moment they did that, all of a sudden, the frontal lobe lit up so much that the scientists had never seen that type of activity in that part of the brain. Now, then they took the control group and they said, all right, you guys, pay attention to one thing. And of course, what happened? My back hurts. How long is this gonna take? I don't really want to do this. Am I doing it right? I wonder what my kid's doing. I gotta buy dinner, all that stuff. And guess what happened to their frontal lobe? Meh, nothing. Now, in one particular monk, there's a part of the frontal lobe on the left side, which is really the happy spot in the brain. And this guy's left frontal lobe was so ignited that the scientists said, this guy's got to be the happiest guy in the world. They'd never seen activity like this before. But then the scientists began to think about this, and what they said was, maybe paying attention and concentration and observation is a skill, just like tennis or golf. And you can improve it if you keep practicing it. Now think about this. The brain is the instrument that we use. It's the machinery for us to process thought. How many people will accept that? And it also has some automatic processes that allow us to function. But for the most part, it's the greatest area in the body where there's the greatest number of neurons clustered together. And where you have the greatest number of neurons clustered together, you have the greatest intelligence. So the brain is the central clearinghouse of intelligence. Mind, by the way, is what the brain does. Mind is the brain in action. It's the brain at work. When we can measure a working brain, we're studying mind. So mind is when the brain is in action. So when we're using functional brain scans and we're studying how the brain works, we're studying this concept called mind. Then here's my question. If the brain is the instrument for intelligence or processing thought, and mind is what the brain does, if you can improve the way your brain works, who's doing the improving? And it's that nasty 13-letter word called consciousness. That's the only solution. Consciousness is our self-aware, free-willed individual that is really not the body, is not the brain, and is not the mind. As a matter of fact, consciousness is what manipulates the brain to produce mind. The brain processes 400 billion bits of information every second, but we're only aware of about 2,000 of those 400 billion bits of information. And you know what those 2,000 bits of information have to do with? 3 things, and only 3 things. The body, the environment, and time. That's it. You know, does your back hurt? Do you have a headache? Are you tired? Is it too cold in here? Is it too bright in here? Is it too dark in here? Do you like the way the person smells sitting next to you? Do you even like the person next to you? How long is this guy gonna talk before we can break? And that's where all of our self-awareness is on. It's only on the body, the environment, and time. And yet billions of bits of information is being processed by the brain. Now, when we can take consciousness, self-awareness, and move it away from the body, the environment, and time, we no longer have to live by the laws of the body, the environment, and time. And when we're able to do that, we begin to open the door to walk into the quantum field. So then the first step to change is becoming conscious of those unconscious states of mind and body. Most people don't like to do this. Everybody knows this, that you keep switching on that system for an extended period of time, and you live by the arousal of fear, the arousal of pain, the arousal of suffering, the arousal of aggression. It takes energy to activate those late systems. And when we do that, our immune system is compromised. The energy that's mobilized for emergency, for the threat in the outer environment, compromises the energy in our inner environment, and we are then more susceptible to the conditions in our outer environment. And as Greg said, you have to look at to see what keeps you in balance. And stress and living in survival is when you're not that balance, not that homeostasis. We can tolerate that short term, but if you keep exposing yourself to the same stimulation, or you have the thought of some worst-case scenario in your mind, you're actually knocking your brain and body out of balance by thought alone. It was just really this element. And so then I was able to figure out that there were 4 common things. And then I wrote a book about it. And then I thought, God, if this works, really on people that were sick and are better, and they come from all walks of life, all colors, all races, all genders, for sexual preferences, but all of a sudden, I wanted to see if I was able to reproduce it. So then I started seeing, okay, let's see if we can teach this be able to reproduce the outcome, because that's science, right? The first one was that they all believed and accepted that there was an intelligence that lived within them that was giving them life. These are these people you interviewed who had had injuries that overcame. No, these are people where with cancer, MS, Lucas, Parkinson's disease got better. Yeah, just spontaneously, it's called a spontaneous for you. So I believe there was an intelligence, there was some invisible life force they were connected to that. They felt like they had lost their connection to, they became separate and disconnected from, and that when they got the diagnosis, they woke up and said, man, I got to connect again, and I got to connect to my essence. And so they developed a relationship with it, just like you develop a relationship with anybody. It takes time. You got to be present. You got to connect. You got to experience. You got to be present. All of these things are important elements. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that they realized that it was the mismanagement of their emotions and the hormones of stress that really began to create their condition. Now stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. The stress is when your body's not that of homeostasis. We have an innate mechanism in our body that returns us back to order. So then if someone cuts you off on the LA freeway, you have the emotional reaction. But 15 minutes later, you're back to driving and you're over it, right? That's all organisms in nature can tolerate, short-term stress. But when it's all day long, all week, all year, so if you're reacting to like a Tyrannosaurus Rex is chasing you, you have to make a decision. Am I going to use 20% of my energy? I'm going to use 100%. So it turns out when you're reacting to traffic, 200%. All right? Or if you're reacting to your coworker sitting in the cubicle next to you, you're turning on that response. And what was once very adaptive becomes very maladaptive, because when you turn on the stress response and you can't turn it off now, you're headed for disease, because nobody can live in emergency mode for that extended period of time. Well, human beings, we can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. You can think about your problems and you're producing the same biological effects. So those chemicals give the brain and body a rush of energy, and people become addicted to that rush of energy. So now they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. They need the bad job. They need the poor relationship. So that means they become addicted to the life that they don't even like. Why do we need the bad job or bad relationship and stay stuck? Because it's a conditioned response. So listen, if you get angry at a coworker and all of a sudden you get an arousal in your brain and body, right? You get a rush of energy. When you start noticing that your body starts dropping, your brain starts noticing your energy starts dropping, you're automatically going to have the image of the coworker in order to give your body the next the jolt, right? So all of a sudden people become addicted to their own thoughts, right? So these people realize that, oh my God, I've been mismanaging my attention and energy, and I got it. I got to get beyond my past. I got to get beyond these emotions. I got to make some big changes. I got to break the habit of being myself. I got to stop being this person now. That sounds really good, theoretically and philosophically, but change is such a hard thing. All right, because the moment you come back to your senses and you step back into your life and you see that person, where you go to that place or you're with that experience, so many people are unconsciously reacting in their thoughts and feelings to everything in their environment. So now their environment is controlling how they think and feel. So they realize that in order to change, it'll change the environment. They got to be greater than their environment, greater than the conditions in the world, in the circumstances. Be mindful of that. Every time they come up to be like, yeah, I'm gonna think differently, right? I'm not gonna react. Yeah, right. I'm not gonna go back, because the moment you start reacting,